The Vietnam War by Genie Bui. Vietnam is located just off the edge of Southeast Asia. Although the narrow country looks small and skinny, it's actually longer than California and has 2 times more people. In that country, on the year 1954, a terrible, tragic war began. The Vietnam War began when there was a disagreement about who would rule the entire country, Vietnam. At first, the country was ruled by the Japanese. The Japanese retreated. The people of Vietnam decided to establish their own country, which would be led by a man named Ho Chi Minh. But the Allies gave the south of Vietnam to the French. The north of Vietnam was treated terrible by the Chinese. As support for Ho Chi Minh grew, he was removed from power. In 1946, the Chinese backed out of the North Vietnam. When that happened, the party of Ho Chi Minh took over, the Viet Minh. In October 1946, the new leader of North Vietnam became Bao Dai. Eastern Europe and Russians didn't want Bao Dai to rule North Vietnam. They wanted Ho Chi Minh to rule. The French wanted to reclaim North Vietnam. The French got help from America. While North Vietnam got help from Mao Tung. The regiment surrendered in May 1954. It was a terrible blowout for the French. The French decided to pull out of North Vietnam. The country decided to divide Vietnam into 2 parts. The leader of the South was Bao Dai, and the leader of the North was Ho Chi Minh. It was also decided that by 1956 there would be an election for who would rule the entire country of Vietnam. However, the election did not happen, so by the time it was 1956, the split had become permanent. The Viet Minh went to the south and actually helped them with their farms and didn't abuse them. The Viet Minh started to fear the soldiers and were actually really generous and helpful. The communism started to spread. This got Americans to get worried. They thought after one country falls apart, the nearest one would be next and that it could spread over the whole world. Americans decided to help South Vietnam. They wanted to determine to fight North Vietnam to stop communism. The American Air Force and the South Vietnam military began to set off towards the North Vietnam. They went through the Ho Chi Minh Trail. They faced so many challenges as they took every single step, such as traps. Some traps were hidden in streams or rivers they had to cross through. Major South Vietnamese cities were attacked. Americans forced them back, but about 160,000 people were killed. About 2 million became homeless. Richard Nixon, the President of the United States, decided to reduce the amount of troops in 1969. By the time it was September of 1972, there were only 40,000 troops left. North Vietnam decided to make an all-out attack on South Vietnam. In January 1973, both sides agreed to discontinue the war, and the remaining troops would have to be released. Vietnam was to be eventually reunited. America pulled out in 1973. The war had cost them $1 billion a day and $88 million for the war in 1968. The discontinue didn't last. The North attacked what was still left of the South's army. The South Vietnam had fallen, and the capital, Saigon, was renamed Ho Chi Minh City in April 1975, and a united Vietnam did become one.